Here we go. Finally, welcome to the Anonymous Gambler podcast. My name is...
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Man, am I excited for this. I'm so happy. We got other guys coming on. We're going to bring on Yanders to talk some NFL. Spam, hopefully, to get some ACC action. A couple buddies are interested in talking Big Ten. You know, I love the Big 12. I love offenses, and I love the non-Power 5 conferences, the Sun Belts, the AACs, the Mountain West, just so excited to be here. Obviously had some guys who doubted and didn't want to be a part of it and steered away, and that's fine. I respect that. But they're going to come on sooner or later because they're going to see what we're doing here. I couldn't have had a better first guest today, bringing on Fuhrmy. He gave some outstanding insight, outstanding analysis. Without further ado, let's get into the conversation with me and Fuhrmy about Week 1 and the SEC. We're going in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Finally, our first guest here on our Anonymous Gambler podcast, all the way out on the other side of the state. Fuhrmy, how you doing?
Good, man. Good. Happy to be here.
Love it. Love it. So excited. I told you in a little bit beforehand, I am without a doubt giving you your own opener. You're the only one. I think everyone else is afraid. I think they don't know what they're getting into, and that's fine. They're going to miss out. They're either A, going to come on board too late and be a bandwagoner, or B, they're going to come on here and not be as prepared as you are today. Look through your notes. Big week of college football finally here. Super excited. Just want to get your thoughts generically about the college football season coming up before we get into a couple of your game picks.
I'm super excited. I'm a big SEC fan, actually a Gators fan at heart, so I'm going to spend a lot of time looking at the SEC this year and very excited about the season upcoming.
True or false? It's only a 2-horse race between Alabama and Georgia.
That's false. Very false.
Pourquoi, meaning why?
So I like Auburn a little bit in the long run. And I think South Carolina could be a sleeper in the SEC as well. They're in the East with Georgia, and I think they can give them a run.
Outstanding. We're going to talk about them in a minute. I see your top game here that you're feeling for this week that you want to get some action on is West Virginia at Tennessee, played at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. Fuhrmy, what's going through your mind here? Talk to me.
So I really like the Mountaineers in this one. They return 12 starters, 7 offensive, 5 defensive, including, of course, the ex-Gator, Will Greer. And they have their 2 top receivers back as well. So it's going to be a pretty potent offense. When Greer was playing last year, before his injury, they averaged 39 points a game. So they're going to fill it up a little bit, and especially in the Big 12, of course. Jennings is their top receiver back, Gary Jennings. And they have David Stills as well. So Jennings caught 96 for over 1,000, and Stills had a pretty crazy campaign last year with 18 TDs. On the defensive side, the Mountaineers returned 5 starters. So they might be a little weak on defense, but they're projected to come right back into the swing of things and be pretty tough on defense as well. So on the flip side, Tennessee returns 12 starters, and you're going to love this. So Jeremy Pruitt's the new head coach. Of course, he's a former defensive coordinator for Bama. So the big question is he going to be as good as Kirby Smart, as quick as Kirby Smart on his own? So it's going to be interesting. I do like that Tennessee brought in Keller Christ. He's the grad transfer from Stanford last year, and he's going to take over as QB in 18. And last year in 2017, Tennessee really struggled at quarterback. They got off to a good start and then just imploded. And a lot of that was because of their quarterback play. On defense, and this is a big note, Pruitt's changing his defensive set to a 3-4. So I'm a little leery about that. I don't know if they have the personnel right now to do a 3-4. So I think this is going to be a year of transition. And on top of that, their biggest concern in 2018 is their lack of experience in a corner and in the secondary.
Why is Tennessee everyone's darling team? They have been this way. I don't get it. Like last year, I remember taking them in the opening. All I needed them to do was score a point. I mean, it was even money against Georgia Tech, like minus 110 across the board, first team to score. They couldn't put it together. Do you believe that they have the tools here? Do you think their defense is going to provide their offense more room to make mistakes, to come through things, to potentially get in better rhythm than what they did last year? Maybe potentially help them by putting points on the board? Is that change in defense going to a 3-4 that drastic? Or do you think that they're just across the board just going to run into problems and just be out of sync this first year?
So I think as they progress through the year, I think they will grow and be a little bit better later in the year. But I think they're really going to struggle against West Virginia and their explosive offense.
Everything points to West Virginia putting it together here. You know what I mean? They're talking. Will Greer takes in the step of Baker Mayfield. You know what I mean? And I understand that Oklahoma has a tough quarterback coming in, a young quarterback. Everyone's looking to this head coach. If this guy has a Heisman winner and then like a Heisman contender within another 2 years, that dude's going to be set forever in the Big 12. He's going to get anyone he wants. He's going to have his veritable pick of the litter. And you look at Greer, he got hurt last year was his thumb. Am I correct in that? I can't remember.
Yeah, you're right.
He hurt his thumb at the end of the year, and that kind of stopped their momentum. I don't disagree with you. I think a lot of the things that were pointing to West Virginia was about their defense, and I think this is a great opportunity for them to put points on the board, and maybe their defense can come through. What do you think here? Is this an overplay for you? Is this a West Virginia play? What do you think you feel confident in, so far with the analysis that you've given us here there, Fuhrmy?
So I really love West Virginia less the points. So I think the line's currently around 10. I really like West Virginia to cover. I just don't think Tennessee's secondary is going to be good enough to just stop Greer and the two stud receivers they have. So I'm taking West Virginia to cover this week.
I like it. Hey, by the way, have you been out to Monmouth? Have you gone out to New Jersey yet and seen the new sports book in the whole 9 yard?
I have not.
I went there. I went with the they removes PASPA. West Virginia is getting ready to add sports betting. New Jersey has it. Delaware is finalizing. Pennsylvania just approved the 6 casinos. I don't know about you. First of all, I think that pick with West Virginia is outstanding. I think that's a great way to start this podcast off. But how do you feel, real quick, as I start to get my second round of notes here? I want to get your opinion about this legalized sports betting that's about to hit the country as it is, with all these different sports books, all these different places opening, and this flood. I mean, we're included in it. I mean, look, as I was hoping to have a podcast like this, and now that they've legalized everything, it kind of brings the conversation to the forefront. So it's just getting your curiosity on this and what you think is going to be happening here going forward, not only with sports betting, but also with daily fantasy.
Yeah, so the daily fantasy thing exploded in the past couple of years, of course. And I think that sports betting getting integrated with daily fantasy through like FanDuel and DraftKings, I think it's just going to create an entirely new market, and it's going to just multiply. I'm truly excited about it. It's local. It will be local and at my fingertips, so I'm sure I will be partaking on a pretty frequent basis.
I want to say right now, and I'm going to put this on the record, and this will be uploaded, that I would still, even though this is not college football right now, I want to apologize for the Calcutta and not taking Loyola. For $50 more, I just want to put that on the record, that I want to apologize to you, because you called that 2 weeks before the tournament and we just did not follow through. So I just want for everyone to know, will you accept my apology?
I do. I accept it.
All right.
We were in a situation though, so I appreciate you doing it anyway.
Not a problem. Hey, listen, let's continue on here. We're going to talk about the Texas Tech Red Raiders here against Ole Miss, and the line right now is Texas Tech 67 is the over, and it's Texas Tech minus 2.5. That line opened at Ole Miss -1, -2, and it has gone towards the Red Raiders. I have a position on this game. I want to hear yours first.
So I actually like Texas Tech in this one. I don't know where you land here.
God. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I assume it's Texas Tech, but I do like Texas Tech in this one. So I know they lost Shimonik, of course, who was their quarterback last year, and they lost a couple receivers, including Kute. So they're going to be filling in some gaps, but with an offense like that and Kingsbury at the helm, sort of coaching, of course, and running through that offense during his playing days, I mean, he just reloads. Every year, offense is not a question. And I think their defense has grown, and it's only getting better. They were pretty young last year defensively, and if I remember correctly, they have a lot coming back. So I think they're going to cover this year. I actually don't like Mississippi this week, and I'm a little concerned about them long term as well. I mean, once they get into conference play, I think they're really going to struggle.
Okay, so you are not wrong about anything that you said. I will say that. They just named McLean Carter as their starting quarterback, and the town apparently is not happy. Apparently they wanted Jet Duffy because he's more mobile and more athletic and can get outside the pocket and run when the plays break down, because they do like to spread the field with that air raid offense. Yes, they lost Kiki Kuti, and they return Trey King at running back, TJ Vasher, and Antoine Wesley back at their wide receiver position. That is a revolving door. All they do is just replace wide receivers. I hear the conversation about 10 defensive starters returning back, and all this stuff about, their defense did so much better. Oh, their defense did so much better. Really? Really? Okay, so end of the year games, okay? Baylor puts up 24, TCU 27, but they only put up 3 points against TCU in that game. Texas 23, and they had to win that game. Kingsbury had to win that game or he's out of the town. And I'm surprised that they even kept him. I really am. And they gave him, I think it was like a 2-year contract extension for that. They put McLean Carter in the game against the UCF Bulls. He was doing terrible, and they put Shimonek back in there. And one more game of note to help their stats was Kansas, who's awful. But look at the rest of their games. Arizona State, 45 points given up. Oklahoma State, 41. West Virginia, 46. Oklahoma, 49. Kansas State, which was a game that I was at, 42. I don't see it. I have no idea. I'm looking at Ole Miss. I'm looking at a program that's in its second year under a coach that is that had those sanctions put on them or whatever the violations, or I'm speaking off the cuff here. They bring back their starting quarterback Tamu, and I understand. Okay, well, Shea Patterson. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. They have a quarterback with experience. They have a top wide receiver in Brown. They have Metcalf. They have a big tight end. Last name's Knox. The running back is a question, but what's the strength on Mississippi on that side of the ball? They say, okay, what's the offensive line? Okay, while everything else is there, they're returning a very solid offensive line, and they also have a solid defensive line in comparison to the returning starters for Texas Tech, which that's probably the most cohesive unit that they have. I think they named 2 captains on their team were offensive linemen, which for Texas Tech, without it being a bunch of skill positions, that makes you think. That over-under went from 62 to 67. I believe, personally, that the market is headed in the right direction. I think this game is 34-38, 38-31, 37-34. I can't give you a pick. I have no idea who is going to win this game. I will put my money on over 67. I will put that in. I think there's points on the board. This is a neutral site game. I think the people are not going to see defense, and I think that they're going to show that on Saturday at noon in Houston. Agree, disagree, or are you going to ride with the Red Raiders?
So I still like the Red Raiders to win, but I also like the over. I think you're right. You brought up some really good points about Ole Miss and Texas Tech, and I know you're a Texas Tech guy at heart. So
yeah, I am.
You follow them very closely, so I definitely trust your opinions. I'm still gonna go with the Red Raiders to cover.
I want to put this on the board too for anyone who listens to this, because I'm at school at Tech. It's funny, my dissertation got pushed back. It wasn't cohesive enough. Needed to be a little bit clearer. That's part of academic writing. It is what it is. You know what I mean? It'll get done sooner or later, or never, whenever. But I don't want to be one of those, like, I have to throw out the teams that I don't like. Like, I can't stand Pitt football right now. I can't stand Penn State in general. I just don't like Penn State. Never have, never will. Always cheered against them like I cheered against Notre Dame. Recently, like was 3 years ago, I got into Tech. So I don't want to jump too hard on the bandwagon, but I do enjoy cheering for their sports and getting into it. So give me another 5 years before you can call me a really stable fan. But those Navy midshipmen will always have a place in my heart. Going to school in the center of the state, and the only games that were on in the morning on CBS were the Navy midshipmen games. So I'm going to be cheering hard for them. And looking for them to do well. I just feel it's necessary. Like you said, like you and I'm a Florida fan. Like I like that. Like if they start doing well, like you're claiming it early. I almost feel like you should have to get like a notarized card every single year of the teams that you're fans of. We should talk about this, Fuhrmy, just for a second. That should be a requirement, like a fan requirement. Like I cheer for these teams, and that way you can't jump on any bandwagons. Like it's way different than the teams that you're betting on. It's way different than the picks. Like I'm cheering for this team in the immediate. I'm talking long term. Agree or disagree on that?
I like the idea. The notary might be taken a little too far, but I definitely like the idea. Too many bandwagon folks, just in general. Especially in the big markets. I feel like the bandwagon guys sort of flood to the big markets in good times. So I like the idea, though. I think it's there's some merit there.
Are you a Penn State guy?
Not really. So I don't dislike Penn State, but I really don't have any ties to the university. I try to get up to 1 or 2 games a year just because of the atmosphere. And, of course, they're very competitive. So always a good time at Penn State.
I'm not going to lie, that Arts Fest back in the day was a very good time. I went up there. I'm going to say this. The only reason I bring up Penn State is I want to bring up one quick pick and your thoughts on this. I'm not sure how much you follow. This young man who is replacing Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders, he is a stud. And I think that they are really, really underrating. Like, if you look at that line, it's pretty much stayed at minus 23.5 Penn State against Appalachian State. I follow a lot of Sunbelt. That over-under, I wouldn't touch with someone else's money. And I'm not a big lined, side guy. I like totals. But I will say this. I would take, and I'm going to probably take, I'm going to look and see what it is. Let's just round the number up, make it 24, put a half-point hook on it just for the fact that it's a half total. I think that Penn State in the first half, it's going to be minus 12.5 against Appalachian State. I think Appalachian State is everyone's sweetheart team from way back in the day. They went into Tennessee, I think it was 2 years ago, they went into Tennessee and gave them everything they had. That was a horrible Tennessee team, period. They had Wake Forest come into their stadium last year. It was 2019. It was a tight game. Everyone was on that side of taking the points. With they actually might have been a favorite. I can't vouch for that. I'd have to look, and I don't want to flip through my book right now. I hate doing that. That's way too inaccurate for me. But I think that they were getting 3 points and they covered at home. They did not win outright. I think Appalachian State is gonna be down this year. Across the board. I think Troy is the better Sun Belt team. I think Arkansas State is going to be really, really good. They lost Lamb, their starting quarterback. They have their returning running back, but Penn State, I don't care what anyone says. And I like, that's why I put out from the very beginning. I do not like Penn State at all. But the fact is, a Penn State game at 3:30 at home, opening weekend of college football, that place is going to be rocking. That place is going to be loud. I don't know if this crop of kids from Appalachian State has ever been in an environment like that. I think Miles Sanders is getting disrespected because of all the attention that rightfully is going to Saquon Barkley. And I think Trace McSorley is going to put up Heisman numbers this year. Just for the record, give me Penn State in the first half. If it's 14 or less, give me that.
I think it'll be more than 14
at the half.
At the half.
No, are you saying the line, or are you saying how much they're going to be winning by?
They'll be winning by.
Yeah, I'm saying the line is 24. So usually, they cut it in half, and they usually will sometimes add a point to a point and a half to kind of put the hook on there to kind of put you at a decision, like they're trying to predict the score long term. So you look at that and you say, okay, even if it's 13 and a half, Penn State is going to be up 24-3, 27-3, 28 nothing, 28-10, something like that. They're going to be up big against this team. They're going to make a statement. Give me 2 touchdowns for Trace McSorley passing, potentially 1 running, and give me 1 for Miles Sanders as well. I think Penn State is up big at halftime, and I think that's easy money on the books. Let's go into I want to hear your thoughts about South Carolina, because I was doing a little research on them, and I read up and found out that their offensive coordinator is like just planning to huck and chuck and really pick up this tempo. What kind of insight do you have into the South Carolina Gamecocks here?
So I really like South Carolina this year, as I was mentioning in the opener. I think they can challenge Georgia. I think one of the big reasons I say that is because they get Georgia in week 2, which is huge
on my notebook.
In the SEC. So they get Georgia at home in week 2. So I think South Carolina has a lot returning. Really, the only position player on offense that they lost last year was Hayden Hurst, who is obviously the tight end of the Ravens. They got their quarterback, Jake Bentley, back. They got Rico Dowdell back. They got Deebo Samuel, who is really an preseason All-American candidate. So at wideout. So I just think their experience, knowing that they have their 3 best playmakers back with a defensive-minded head coach in Will Muschamp, I think really all the tools are lining up for them to make a pretty serious run at the SEC East.
Wow. Are they going to cover this big number week 1 against the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers?
Yeah, and the Battle of the Roosters, man. So I do. I think they're gonna cover. I usually don't bet these big spreads, but I think South Carolina has so much to prove, and I think they have so much coming back that they're going to be meshing very well early in the season compared to most teams.
What about their defense? How do you feel? Are they as strong as, like, they've been kind of known to kind of slow everything down recently? You look at a couple of their scores. I'm pulling them up right now. You look in the latter half of that year, 28-20, 31-10. They lost to Clemson, but everyone did. And then that big bowl win in the Outback Bowl against Michigan, 26-19. Is this the same defense again? Are they returning that many guys? What's going on here?
They're returning 6 guys. But the key stat here is their yards per game defensively have decreased every year that Muschamp's been there. And it's very likely to happen again in 17. They only have 6 back, but they have a very strong linebacker core, and they're pretty solid up the middle on the D-line. So I don't think it's going to impact them too much in week 1. I don't think Coastal has enough to put up some points on them. South Carolina is 17-1 in their last 18 home openers, wow. And they're also 17-1 lifetime against the Sun Belt. So I know that's straight up, but I think they're going to make a statement this week, come out hot, and then I don't even think they're going to release too much of their playbook, to be completely honest. I think they're going to bring their A game for Georgia in week 2.
That was the thing that I actually had a note. I had a thing that said South Carolina has Georgia next week, which I wanted to talk to you about. Here's a question for you, because I don't know how deep their offense is. And I'm reading this directly from my Athlon Sportsbook. McClendon's solution for the offense. It's really, quote, it's really simple. The more plays you run, the more opportunities you get for yards and points. You just get more at-bats. That's the biggest thing. So here's my question for you. This line is sitting at 29.5. That's not a super magical number. Trying to think of more 28 and 31 are more numbers that have that 7, 4, and 3 combination to them. So here's my question for you. Let's just say the South Carolina blows this things off the doors at the beginning. Let's say they open up big, 35-0 at halftime, something like that, 35-3 at halftime. Third quarter, they get comfortable. When they pull their guys out, are they going to have enough to, A, continue to cover this spread, and B, potentially even hit this over? You know what I mean? Like, I look at Coastal Carolina, Kilton Anderson, Marcus Outlaw, or outlook, excuse me, Marcus Williams at wide receiver. They bring back their quarterback running back combination. I think Coastal Carolina plays UAB the following week. That's not a big game. That's a big game in a weird way for them. They lost that game last year, but UAB was really, really like they hit and had an incredible year. But I'm trying to look at this over. It was at 52.5. It went up to 57. I'm looking at this total. I'm looking at this side saying, boy, is South Carolina going to lock them down, or is Coastal going to sneak a couple scores later? Are these kids who are backups going to come in this game and try to put points on the board for the hometown? When you're looking at college kids, you're always looking at kids that are looking to get recognized that night. And so these kids that have a home game where that crowd is going to be bumping, I don't know if they're going to take their foot off the gas pedal. So do you think that, in your opinion, is this, let's see how many we can put in, let's put our secondary starters in, second teamers in, excuse me, and let's get them more experience, and let them open up the playbook that we've been running that's been clearly working all game, hopefully? Or is this, let's put our points up, let's run this ball, let's get out of here, and let's get to Georgia?
And that's a very good question, Diggs. I think they could do the latter. I just think they're going to come out and sort of punch them in the face, and I think they're going to put up 21 quick. And I don't think they're going to pull their starters until midway through the third or even in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
I definitely agree with you that they're going to be looking ahead, and they're definitely not going to want to risk any injuries just knowing what's around the corner. So they could have a quick trigger and put in their backups. But I just think back to Will Muschamp's days not that long ago as the head coach of Florida, and where he struggled in his entire coaching career as the head man at Florida was offensively. He always had a very solid defense. Sometimes their defense was even top in the SEC, above Bama, above Auburn, above Georgia. And I think that's what he's building. He's had 2 years to recruit now. And I think his defense is going to be solid, and that's what's going to keep them in games when it gets to the SEC. I think their offense is good enough to compete, but I think the defense is going to be what determines whether they're SEC East champs or not.
Wow. So you're saying South Carolina by 30 or more for the whole game?
I am.
What a guy. Fuhrmy, you have no idea. First of all, I have a face for radio anyway, so I wouldn't want anyone to see what I look like in person. But man, if you could see the grin on my face, just for how we're just breaking this down, it makes me so happy right now. And that is phenomenal insight. Like when I was trying to put together the team of guys to kind of talk conference to conference because of what they know, you've set the bar. You have, and I'm not just saying this, you have set the bar. If you're going to come on here and talk, you better know what you're talking about. You just can't make stuff up. And you're coming with concrete facts, past knowledge, prior years, good stats, good data. I am just thoroughly impressed. Before we get to the last pick, I just want to say I'm thoroughly impressed with what you've put together so far for me. I just got to give you credit where credit's due, man.
All right, I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Not a problem. Hey, listen, I'm trying to keep this within 35, 40 minutes. We're at minute number 27. I want to get to the last game that we had said that we talked about. It's a big one. Washington, Auburn. Auburn sitting at -2.5. That total's dropped. Let me do a little quick double check here. That total went from, I think it was 51. It's sitting about 48 and a half. And Auburn is actually at -2 right now. So it's almost a pick 'em, but it's not. Tell me what you're thinking here about the old Auburn Tigers against a potential national playoff contender in Washington.
Yeah, so I really like Washington this year. They had a little bit of a disappointment last year, but they return a ton of talent on offense, and they're projecting to have 7 seniors start in week 1, which you don't hear about much anymore. So just given that, I think their experience definitely weighs in their favor. Jake Browning had a really down, the quarterback for Washington, had a really down year in 2017. He was a Heisman hopeful last year, to be honest, and he really just didn't perform to the expectations. The one guy that I would say exceeded expectations last year was Myles Gaskin, and he's their running back. But he ran for 1,300 last year and had 21 touchdowns, along with 3 touchdowns through receiving through the air. So he's a potent force in the Washington backfield. They're actually both going to break school records this year. Browning's going to shatter the passing record, and Gaskin's going to break the rushing record. Gaskin might do it in week 1, to be honest with you.
Wow. So, I mean, this game is huge for the Washington Huskies. If they win this, they can run the table in the Pac-12. Are they going to come through, let alone cover? I mean, first of all, they're not even getting the respect that they deserve as a pick'em game. They're giving this one to Auburn. So is Auburn, as you had mentioned, are they a team to legitimately look out for here? Are they a legitimate threat to Washington and their hopes of making this playoff? Or is Washington gonna do this thing right?
So Auburn's definitely a threat. I mean, this is a top 10 showdown in week 1. So both of these teams could come out of the gate hot. You expect them to pick up where they left off last year and be very, very competitive. I think Auburn is, first of all, they lost their 2 best running backs, and I know running backs are replaceable, but they were 2 draft picks. So losing 2 top picks to the draft is gonna definitely leave a void. They only returned 6 starters, and another stat that's pretty crazy is last year the Auburn line surrendered 36 sacks, and that's almost double what they did the previous 4 years in each of those 4 years. So I actually expect the number to climb more this year because they have a lot of young talent on the offensive line, and they lost a couple linemen. So they're even younger up front, and I think that's where the game's going to be decided, is in the trenches up front and in the secondaries, to be honest.
Who are you taking?
So I'm going to take Washington to cover. I think it's actually going to, like you said, it's almost betting the money line. But I think Washington's going to win by a field goal. I think it's going to truly come down to the very end of the game. They each have redshirt freshman kickers. So it literally could come down to the last possession before this one's decided.
Wow. Look at that. So you are riding this week. You are going with, you got the South Carolina Gamecocks, you've got the Washington Huskies, and you like those West Virginia Mountaineers to open up. Man, I can't hope for more of a 3-for-3 week than ever. Fuhrmy, this has been outstanding. I know you're a real person with kids. I respect that. But I know that you can't make any overt promises. But man, if we could do this once a week and take 30 minutes out of our lives to just not think about anything other than college sports, I'd love to have you all the way through. Even getting into March Madness, getting ready for the Calcutta. If there's some breaks in there, that's fine. But man, I would love to do this if you'd like to continue to go throughout the rest of the season, man.
Absolutely. Let's see how we do. It's going to be a lot of fun to track this stuff this year.
It's beautiful. Listen, hang on the line here. I'm going to disconnect here real quick and hit pause and get ready for it before I get ready to go through the final run through for this first episode. But I'm going to formally say on the record, thank you very much for coming on today and giving us your insight. And I can't wait till next week, Fuhrmy.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much for coming and listening to the first ever Anonymous Gambler podcast. Going to be doing this all season. This is my getaway. I need this, just to be able to talk with friends, talk sports, and talk some gambling lines and the whole 9 yards. Remember, don't ever bet money you don't have, and have a safe weekend, a safe Labor Day weekend, and we will see you guys and talk to you next week.